And this is a private tour. Sorry about that. Thank you. This is built in 1908.
Sidewalk?
Pardon me?
Can I stand on the sidewalk?
Yes, you can do wherever you want.
Go ahead.
Yeah. This is built in 1908. And Al Knott was one of the town's blacksmiths. And so later on, when the county paved the road, remember I told you about the paving the road? He was an opportunist. When he saw that happen, he took his blacksmith shop, which is right over there. He lifted it up and moved it back to where the Gambling Cowboy is. And he built a 2-pump garage here, which he ran until 1960 when he retired. Now somebody asked about when we were talking about the church and moving the church. In the old days, buildings were just wood frame buildings sit on top of the ground, on top of the dirt. So you could lift them up easily and move them around. They got moved around quite a bit. Now, nothing particularly happened with Mr. Knott. Okay, I'm just telling you this is his house. There used to be a blacksmith shop. What really happened was with the blacksmith that was leasing the shop from Mr. Knott. That guy's name was John D. McNeil. And in August of 1936, and by the way, he was also the town constable, which he was like our law enforcement. Okay? We didn't have any police here. The closest sheriff deputy was in Lake Elsinore, and of course the sheriff was in Riverside. So what happened on August 13th, 1936, you know, Mr. Knott and Mr. McNeil were talking and everything, and then Mr. Knott decided to go home to lunch like we normally did. So he went home for lunch that day, but he never came back to work. You know why? When he went home to lunch, he murdered his wife. Okay? Actually, he didn't murder her at lunchtime. She died 7 hours later in the Riverside Hospital. So, he was tried, he was convicted, and on Halloween, 1936, he was sentenced to die for murdering his wife. He was sentenced to die by hanging. And so the following July 7th, 1937, he walked the 13 steps at the gallows at San Quentin, and he was hung for killing his wife, Melody. Now, a couple interesting things here about this. When I moved here to Temecula, everybody was proud and happy that the last man that was hung was a blacksmith from Temecula. Because the story was, the last man that was hung in California was our blacksmith. Great, right? We got something to talk about. Right. The little Temecula. Well, guess what? A newspaper reporter did a research several years after that, and she found out that there were actually 7 other men that were hung after him. Even though they had started using something a week after John D. McNeil was executed, they started using another means. Do you know what that was to execute people by? What did they use? They didn't hang him.
Injection?
No,
shot him.
We do that now.
Firing squad.
Shot him.
Firing squad, Utah? No.
Shot him.
Electric chairs, East Coast. What do we do on the West Coast, folks?
Drown.
We gas them. That's right. So they started using the gas chamber, and everybody thought he was the last man hung. But instead, there were 7 other men hung after him, because when the judge sentenced them to hang by the neck. May God have mercy on them. And so up until 1942, people, there were people being executed in California for capital crimes by hanging. Up until 1942 during World War II. Okay. So, John D. McNeil. Here's when he was arrested. This is what he looks like, so I'll pass this around. Here's his mugshot when he entered San Quentin. Check him out.
Do they know why they murdered her? What did he say?
Well, this is what they don't know really why, but he gave several excuses. One of the excuses was when he woke up in the yard and somebody had attacked him from behind, so he didn't know who he was. Then one of the stories was that when he went home, his wife was really angry with him because he had stopped making the payments on her life insurance policy, and she found out. And so she picked up the gun that was on the kitchen table, and she was pointing it at him. And in self-defense, he had in his hands 2 ringer rollers he was working on at the blacksmith shop, and he threw one, and it hit her. And when it hit her, she fell, she hit her head on the cabinet, and she hit her head on the floor. So he's trying to explain all this damage to her head. The coroner has said he'd never seen anything like that in his life. There was so much damage to her skull, all the pieces of bone were split around the side of her head. So, nobody really knows why he did it. Okay, he never really confessed. He never left any kind of note to his 4 children or anything like that. Here's a picture of the murder scene. You see the blood on the floor? Here's the headlines from when he was convicted and the tears when he got the sentence. You can check that out. Okay, everybody likes to see the murder scene, right? Huh? The murder occurred at his house, which is across the bridge.
No.
We go on the bridge, and I'll show you where Pujol Street is. And if you go across the bridge, you turn left and go about 3 houses down. That's where his house used to be. It burnt down in the 1960s. Again, we don't know who burned it down. A lot of buildings burnt down around. We don't know why. Some people built a house on there, but they sold their property several years ago. Because guess who bought the property?
On this side right here.
The city did, and they put some brand new apartments on it. So they put their apartments right on top of that property. Now she didn't die there, but do you know why she died in 1936? The lack of technology. Okay. Today we're so used to if something happens to us, what'll happen? Somebody will call 911. There'll be a paramedic here within less than 5 minutes. They're fully functional to support life. They're trained. They have everything they need with them right there. They can get you to the hospital, which is 5 minutes away, right? So you have a chance for survival. Back in 1936, they had to call an ambulance. Where do you think the ambulance came from? Elsinore. But how did it get here? That windy 2-lane highway, right? What came here? What was an ambulance in 1936? It wasn't a paramedic wagon, right? No. It was. You guys ever seen the movie Ghostbusters? You know that ambulance? The station wagon ambulance? They called them meat wagons. You know why they called them meat wagons? Was a driver a trained paramedic? The driver was just a driver. His job was to get people as fast as they could between 2 points. So they put her in an ambulance, and they literally had to drive her to Riverside to the hospital. So the lack of technology, the crappy ambulance, the crappy roads, that killed her. She died at 7 o'clock that night. But she lived long enough to tell 4 different people that it was her husband that did her in. Okay?
Now
So
what did he do to her? Knife?
No, he bludgeoned her to death.
Okay.
Yeah, with ringer rollers from a washing machine. So there was some anger in there, right? Okay, we're not done yet. So he's in San Quentin, okay? He's waiting for execution. They took his fingerprints. Guess what? They found out he was there 30 years earlier. But his name wasn't John D. McNeil. His name was Daniel McMaster, and he was in there for grand larceny. Here's his picture. The same guy. So I don't know if his name's Daniel McMaster or John D. McNeil. And he changed his name when he came out of prison, right? So that's the blacksmith from Temecula in 1936. Okay? We got a problem with blacksmiths in Temecula. I don't know why. In 1900, the blacksmith in Temecula was almost lynched by the people of Temecula. And he actually got away from Temecula. He was going to go to Mexico, so he went to Murrieta first. And they caught him in Murrieta. And he turned himself into the sheriff to save his own life. And do you know why the town folks of Temecula wanted to lynch their blacksmith in 1900? Well, I'll tell you why. He had a young daughter. She just married a young man. And she had a child. Well, when she married this young man, she confessed to her new husband that her child, that the father of her child was her father. So it was incest. Okay? So he got 10 years in prison for that, and the guy didn't care. He never was sorry for her. He never did anything. Look at his mugshot. He looks like he doesn't care. And on the back of the articles from the papers, you can turn it around to see the articles. So that's our blacksmith from Temecula, guys.
Straight.
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The music layer.
I don't know what it is about
They're
them.
undercover.
Flipping over.
So we're going to go ahead. You can pass it around. We'll go ahead and walk this way.
Thank you, baby.
So let's go this way, folks.
Back in the day,
So when you hold that.
back in the days, they got